It's August 2022, and this upload is for the attention of the relevant bodies. I've been communicating these uploads of this documentary to since commencement in 2018-2019, when COVID and Brexit kicked in as a consequence of my work in the summer of 2018. Here in Tralee, County Kerry, Ireland, when also at the same time, simultaneously, there were initiatives of individuals of hate crime causing interference and intrusions and trespass endeavours upon my private life as a new mother, illegally, unlawfully, and without remit. So today's little brief upload is for the attention of the Department of Justice, and it's also for the attention of the United Nations and humanitarians throughout the world that are aware of the fraud that I'm tolerating. There's a little bit of an issue going on in this community, as I've mentioned, about people not honouring their obligations and not respecting their duties and not fulfilling their functions properly. And there is a little issue with these people that have been of repeat offences on my farms. As a property owner and as a qualified teacher, there's been an issue of these people that have been on my farms without my consent and that have been discussing my properties without any proper formalities in any way present. So there's a very serious issue when these people have been of incessant offences against my child and I. And as I said, I represent education and I represent agriculture. So there's an issue that I'm raising for the attention of the government, and particularly the Department of Justice, simply for the simple fact that there's been an obstruction of proper procedures. Ombudsman and your roles have not been fulfilled since I contacted you in 2017 with regard to the abduction of my child. So as I've mentioned and shared and communicated, the breakdown in communication and the obstruction of proper procedures and the harms and damages and losses incurred to my profession and my properties by repeat fraud incidents in this community are a matter I'm raising for the attention of the United Nations, to communicate to them that there is a very serious problem with individuals in this community not able to do what they're supposed to be doing and not doing anything properly. There's an issue with repeat offenders being in my proximity and even attempting to correspond with me by means and manners that are not in accordance with protocol. The very fact that there's been legislation from me is one issue. The very fact that there's been medical negligence occur against me as a mother since 2015, that's another issue. And as I've been a teacher in this community that's been slandered and defamed since 2006 as a consequence of sexual violence, it's quite serious that any women out there would support directly or indirectly any of this kind of an initiative. So property theft, that's probably, quite serious now at this stage. Creative and intellectual as well. Neffet, you're aware of your own developments and progress and procedures and the incidents that have arisen from the damages I've experienced. So there's a lot going on that the government hasn't addressed formally. And the only way that the government is able to communicate with me is person to person directly. Running from the problems that have been caused is very irresponsible, and the departments such as social protection that haven't observed the reality of the circumstance and that are assisting any property fraud on my Kilflynn or Ardfert holdings, I'm really concerned for your failings. So this afternoon seems there's a breakdown in communication. The only way I have a means of communicating exactly the irresponsible, unprofessional incompetence that I'm tolerating is via these uploads of this documentary. So those that can't do their jobs properly and that can't hold their positions properly and that are living off my wealth and my work and that have been abusing the developments of legislation that came about as a consequence of my work in the summer of 2018. and that have been of creative intellectual theft. I really need the government to comprehend that there's only one way to approach this, and it's not from evasion or avoidance or exacerbation. So the issue of the Department of Social Protection trying to communicate with me is a little bit of an issue. The very fact that I have to receive €208 from the state per week as a qualified teacher and property owner while people are living off my wealth is a little bit of a dangerous offence for the Department of Justice to be overlooking. So that's just one matter. So that €208 per week that I receive to satisfy those that are living off me and stealing from me, that's a very dangerous crime against the state that I'm tolerating. So that's one issue. And those that are communicating with me without observance of the reality, and that have damaged my qualifications, and that have been a part of damages, harms and losses to my livelihood, etc., and that have offended the Constitution, those that have corresponded with me illegally, unlawfully and out of remit, I hope you understand how to observe the law. It's very dangerous what's going on in Tralee, County Kerry, that my child is still missing and that I've experienced medical negligence since I gave birth in 2015. So the government ministers have to communicate with me as a law-abiding citizen, as a qualified educator of the Department of Education, and as a property owner of two very substantial farm holdings that are subject to fraud and trespass. So the fact that my husband and my child are missing and that I've experienced medical negligence are all very dangerous issues. So I hope the United Nations is going to be able to approach this situation. It's quite serious what's going on. It's very unsafe for other families also. As I've mentioned, I'm an avatar, and my work, my purpose has brought about legislative change in this country. So other families are being violated inadvertently as a result of incompetent, cheeky individuals not observing the law or the reality. It's a very dangerous situation what's going on. So if the departments of the government and the ministers of the government could observe this situation and confront it personally with me, I'd be very grateful. But in the meantime, with the United Nations